Ezekiel is told to preach to a bunch of people in graves. Talk about a dead audience. They come alive, and God says, this is my people coming back to their land again. Interesting how it says, they will say, our hope is lost. One of the greatest tragedies in human history is the Holocaust. It took place during World War II. I don't know if the United States understood the full impact of what was happening to the Jewish people throughout Europe, but Hitler had come up with this idea that was implemented by those that assisted him, men like Adolf Eichmann and Heinrich Himmler and others, to bring about what they called the final solution, and that was the complete eradication of the Jewish race from Europe. They wanted to kill as many Jewish people as possible. They thought of them as subhuman. At first they just had German soldiers shoot them, but they didn't have the stomach for it. They needed a more, shall we say, efficient way of doing it, and they came up with these horrific death camps, these concentration camps, with names like Treblinka and Ravensbrück, and of course the famed Auschwitz, where 6 million Jewish men, women, and children were gassed, shot, tortured, experimented on, and put to death. This was devastating for the Jewish people globally. But an amazing thing began to happen despite this horrible tragedy. The Jewish people began to realize, perhaps for the first time collectively, we cannot expect others to protect us. No one will stand up for us. We need to get back to our land. And the Jews began to return to Israel. And on May 14th, 1948, history was made when Israel became a nation. That was not the first time she was a nation. She had been a nation for thousands of years, but she was born again as a nation, reunified as a people, and the prophetic time clock started to tick. A very significant moment. Tim LaHaye, in his book, Are We Living in the End Times, said, quote, the smell of the Holocaust is still fresh in their memories, end quote. In the 1950s, Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion said, quote, Ezekiel 37 has been fulfilled, and the nation Israel is hearing the footsteps of the Messiah, end quote. And then on Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27, 2010, in Auschwitz, Poland, Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, made this amazing statement, and I quote, we have returned to our homeland from every corner of the earth. The Jewish people rose from ashes. Dry bones became covered with flesh. A spirit filled them, and they lived and stood on their own feet, as Ezekiel prophesied. And then Netanyahu went on to quote Ezekiel 37, verses 11 to 12. Amazing. I mean, if a pastor said that, it's one thing, but for the Prime Minister of Israel to acknowledge that the Jewish people regathered together as a nation is a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. I don't know if Mr. Netanyahu has read Ezekiel 37 and 38. But that's what follows, and we'll look at that in a few moments of what is still yet to come for Israel. But Bible prophecy was fulfilled.